The crackling of weaponry fire echoed through the rain-soaked alley, each shot reverberating off the brick walls. Keanu Reeves crouched low behind a dumpster, his breath steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. Beside him, Buddy, his loyal pit bull, growled softly, his sharp eyes fixed on the shadows ahead. The alley, slick with rain and littered with debris, felt like a trap. Ahead, a figure darted into the light of a flickering street lamp, a man in tattered clothes clutching a small briefcase to his chest. His wide, terrified eyes met Keanu's for a brief second before he stumbled and fell to his knees. Behind him, two men in dark coats emerged, their movements deliberate, their weapons raised. "Buddy, stay," Keanu murmured, his voice low but firm. Buddy's growl deepened, but he obeyed, his muscular frame tense and ready. Keanu's mind raced. He'd seen the homeless man before, just days ago, sharing a sandwich with a scruffy dog at the corner of 8th and Main. Something about their quiet companionship had tugged at Keanu's heart, and he'd stopped to buy them a warm meal. Now the dog was nowhere to be seen, and the man was in grave danger. "Drop it," one of the armed men barked, his voice sharp and cold. The homeless man whimpered but clutched the briefcase tighter. Keanu didn't wait. He sprang from his cover, moving with the agility and precision of someone who'd seen too much of the world's darkness. His weapon was out in an instant, aimed at the nearest threat. "Drop your weapons," he commanded, his voice cutting through the rain. Buddy barked, a ferocious sound that echoed Keanu's determination. The men hesitated, their surprise evident. In that moment, the homeless man scrambled to his feet and bolted toward Keanu, clutching the briefcase like a lifeline. One of the attackers fired, the shot going wide as the man dove behind the dumpster. "Buddy, guard," Keanu ordered. The pit bull positioned himself protectively between the homeless man and their assailants, his teeth bared. Keanu returned fire, his aim precise. One of the men cried out, his weapon clattering to the ground. The other retreated into the shadows, shouting curses as he disappeared. Silence fell, broken only by the patter of rain and the homeless man's ragged breathing. Keanu approached him cautiously, lowering his weapon. Buddy sniffed the air. His ears perked as he remained alert. "You okay?" Keanu asked, his voice softer now. The man nodded, his hands trembling as he held out the briefcase. They wanted this. Please, you have to help me." Keanu's gaze flicked to the briefcase, then to the man's face. There was desperation there, but also something deeper, a glimmer of hope. 3 days earlier, Keanu had been walking Buddy through downtown Los Angeles when he first noticed the man and his dog. They were huddled near a bakery, the man tearing a sandwich in half to share with his furry companion. The dog's tail wagged weakly as it ate, its ribs visible beneath its thin coat. Keanu had stopped, his heart heavy. "Stay here, Buddy," he said, tying the pit bull's leash to a nearby post before heading into the bakery. When he returned with 2 steaming bags, the man looked up in surprise. "For you," Keanu said, handing him the food. The man's eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you. No one's ever done something like this for us." Keanu crouched down, extending a hand toward the dog, who sniffed it cautiously before licking his fingers. "What's his name?" "Max," the man replied, stroking the dog's matted fur. "He's all I've got." They chatted for a while, and Keanu learned that the man, whose name was Tom, had fallen on hard times after losing his job and home. Max had been his only constant, a source of comfort in a harsh world. Before leaving, Keanu had promised to check on them again. But when he returned 2 days later, they were gone. He'd felt a pang of worry, wondering where they could have gone. Now, in the alley, Tom clung to the briefcase as if it contained his very soul. They took Max. He choked out, tears mixing with the rain on his face. They said they'd hurt him if I didn't give them what they wanted. Keanu's jaw tightened. What's in the case? Proof, Tom whispered. Proof of what they're doing. They're stealing money meant for shelters, selling the supplies on the black market. Max and I saw them loading trucks. They saw us, and now they want this. Keanu's mind raced. He'd heard rumors of corruption in the cities, outreach programs, but hadn't paid them much mind. Now he was staring at the evidence and the cost of uncovering it. We'll get Max back, Keanu said firmly. But first, we need to get you somewhere safe. They made their way to an abandoned warehouse Keanu knew of, a place where they could regroup. Tom explained everything in detail, his voice trembling as he recounted the threats and violence he'd endured. Buddy stayed close to Tom, sensing his distress. The pit bull nudged Tom's hand with his nose, offering silent comfort. "He's a good dog," Tom said, managing a small smile. Keanu nodded. The best. As night fell, Keanu formulated a plan. He couldn't go to the police. The corruption likely ran deep. Instead, he reached out to a trusted friend, a journalist known for exposing scandals. Together, they devised a strategy to retrieve Max and expose the criminals. The following night, Keanu and Buddy led Tom to a meeting point in an old factory, where the criminals were known to operate. Keanu had sent the journalist ahead to document everything, ensuring there would be no way for the perpetrators to cover their tracks. As they approached, Buddy's ears perked up. A faint whimper carried through the night air. Tom's eyes widened. "Max," he whispered. Keanu signaled for silence and motioned for Tom to stay back. With Buddy at his side, he crept closer. Through a broken window, he saw Max tied to a post, his tail wagging feebly despite his condition. Two men stood nearby, talking in hushed tones. One held a weapon, the other a phone. Keanu couldn't hear their words, but their intent was clear. "Stay here, Buddy," Keanu said, patting the dog's head. Buddy whined, but obeyed, his eyes never leaving Keanu as he slipped inside. The confrontation was swift. Keanu took down the armed man first, his movements precise and unrelenting. The second man tried to run, but Buddy was already on him, blocking his path with a menacing growl. The man froze, raising his hands in surrender. Tom rushed in, tears streaming down his face as he untied Max. The dog leapt into his arms, licking his face as if reassuring him that everything would be okay. Keanu secured the criminals, ensuring they couldn't escape before signaling the journalist. Cameras flashed as evidence was documented, and the police were called anonymously, leaving them no choice but to act on the irrefutable proof provided. By dawn, the story was breaking news. Headlines exposed the corruption, and arrests were made. Tom was offered a chance to rebuild his life, thanks to public support, and donations that poured in after his story was shared. As for Keanu and Buddy, they returned to their quiet life, knowing they had made a difference. But the city wasn't quite ready to let the story fade into the background. Letters and messages poured in from people inspired by their actions. Some shared their own tales of hardship and resilience, others offered help to the countless. Others, like Tom, still struggling on the streets. Keanu, moved by the outpouring of support, decided to take things a step further. He reached out to a local nonprofit that specialized in providing resources to homeless individuals and their pets. Using his platform and the momentum of the recent events, Keanu and Buddy became ambassadors for a new initiative project, Second Chance. Tom became the first success story of the project. With the donations he received, he was able to secure housing and enroll in a vocational program. But perhaps most importantly, he and his dog, Max, were inseparable through it all. Max, once frail and anxious, now wagged his tail with newfound confidence. Tom often joked that the only downside to their new life was Max's newfound preference for gourmet dog food over the scraps they used to share. Keanu and Buddy attended the launch event for Project Second Chance, where Tom was invited to speak. He stood at the podium, clutching Max's leash tightly, and looked out at the crowd with tear-filled eyes. "I don't have the right words to say thank you," he began. To Keanu, to Buddy, and to everyone who believed that a man and his dog deserved a second chance. You've given me more than just a fresh start. You've given me hope. The audience erupted into applause, and Buddy let out an enthusiastic bark as if to say he approved. Keanu smiled, scratching Buddy behind the ears. "What do you think, pal?" Buddy wagged his tail, as if to say he was always ready. And so they continued their journey, not as heroes seeking recognition, but as a man and his dog quietly changing the world, one small act of kindness at a time.